Welcome in, guys. Big bounce back Wednesday last night. Left you guys off. We had a bunch of NBA action. We had a World Series wrapped up. Texas gets it done. Another big night. Eovaldi, another big performance. Gallen finally gave him that ace performance, but the bats couldn't get going for Arizona. Last night for the how to beat the bookie team, we had Jazz minus the 1, 3 units, beat that number, had the under in the Knicks Cavs game. No problem there. They can't score a bucket. And the big 5 units on the Clippers, both +6 and +5.5 for a total of 5 units. That number crushed as well. And, of course, that game lands on 5 and a sweat job in OT. So needed every bit of those points that you beat on that number, John.
Yeah, and I don't know how we were for timing because we got the podcast by the time we got that podcast up, if the line had moved already. But, again, guys, we tell you all the time, we love and appreciate that you guys come and watch the podcast.
Yep.
And but if you're just watching the podcast and that game is already down to 4.5 when we're telling you bet on the Clippers, you take a winner and you turn it into a loser. We sent out first thing in the morning +6. That's why I was so aggravated when I saw the line going to 7. I thought maybe somebody knew that PG and Kawhi would be up because there was no way that line could be there. The right line, look. You don't get more of a right line in the game going into overtime. It's a flip a coin type of game. So if you can take 6 points, that was a no-brainer. But, yeah, it became a sweat. It looked like we were going to run away with it in the early part of the game. Lakers put on a ridiculous third quarter. And how about LeBron? We just talking a little bit about the LeBron MJ debate at the end yesterday, and this guy goes 42 minutes, so not exactly playing to the script of the 28, 30 minutes a game. And this is going to be deciding factors in a lot of games with LeBron. Got to read the tea leaves. What game is LeBron going to get up for? Yeah, a Clipper team that's beaten them 11 straight times. That's a game he might push it a little bit. Maybe the next game at Orlando, maybe he don't get up so much, a team that they just beat. So we'll see. It's going to be a day-by-day basis. But, yeah, get back on the right side. Again, that's how vital, that's how important the numbers are. Games are going to fall during the course of the season. Yesterday was one of them. You took off 6. You took off 5.5. You get the money. You take 5, it's a push. You take less, it's a loser. Again, that's the key. We let you know when to bet them. Every day we're beating the number. As Ben said, we lay 1 on the Jazz game, it goes to 2. We take 6, that game closed 3. Beating the number every day, you have to win at the end of the year. Cold streaks are going to come. Hot streaks are going to come. At the end of the year, there's going to be a plus. That's what it's all about, Ben.
Yep, big turnaround in the week, and hopefully we can carry that in. We have a good amount of action in the small card today, but a good amount of action on the NBA games going on today. Nothing so far on Thursday night football. We'll get into that in just a second. John, thoughts on the World Series? Crazy game as far as, pitching duel for the most part. And the next thing you know, Texas bats do what they've been doing all postseason long, and they pull off what seems impossible, the 11-0 on the road, which is just ridiculous.
That is ridiculous. Again, we'll say it again in case you guys didn't hear us yesterday. This is a team, Texas, that went 40-41 on the road during the regular season. Oh, yeah. Only them and the Twins, the only 2 playoff teams to not have at least a 500 record on the road during the regular season. So just a phenomenal job. But we also talked about it. Texas went crazy on the Arizona bullpen in Game 4. And I just knew that was going to happen. We threw the stats out at you. Gallen, I literally wrote it in the preview. He's a different pitcher on the road that he is at home. And he was absolutely phenomenal, at least for 7 innings yesterday. So their hats off to Texas. They get their first World Series. This Bocce just gets it done wherever he goes. He wins a World Series. Name your price and sign that guy up. But look, Arizona, that's a team that shouldn't have been there. Texas, you can make an argument, was the best team or at least one of the best teams. But the Braves were better than Arizona. The Dodgers were better than Arizona. Philadelphia was better than Arizona. Maybe even Milwaukee. But somehow they got past all of them and they got there. It's all a matter of getting hot at playoff time. And Arizona did, so good job getting there, just not enough to pull it off. Look, again, this is how important the numbers are and how you have to be a disciplined bettor. We leaned to Arizona because I felt Galen would give them a real good pitching effort. You had Garcia's bat out of the lineup. It's a must game, and all of that happened. But without getting the right price, it wasn't a bet. Now, if you're an undisciplined bettor and you just want to put on the World Series, you took an L. Yeah, if I could have took plus 110, I would have took it. I couldn't get it. Again, numbers, discipline. That's what's going to make you a winner at the end of the year as compared to a loser.
Yeah, I think you brought up Bruce Bochy and what he accomplished. It's 4 rings now since 2010, but in the last 20 years, and I think this speaks to a manager's skill set more than anything, is of the longest odds preseason to win an MLB championship. Obviously, Rangers this year is the longest odds in the last 20 years of anyone preseason, but his 4 rings are for the top 6 longest odds. So he's taking bad teams and making runs. That's just an impressive stat there for a manager. And really, Texas did it with 3 big swings from the front office. They did it 2 off seasons ago. You go pay the money for Seager. You pay the money for Simeon. This past off season, pay the money for Eovaldi. They pay the money for DeGrom. And at the deadline, you go get Scherzer or Montgomery. And that's really what you did. You got your bats, you got your pitchers, and they made a run.
Yeah. The other thing we wanted to touch upon was how poor the TV viewing audience was. And we always have the conspiracy theorists out there. They don't want Arizona in the no, they don't. I mean, Major League Baseball, everything's about the almighty dollar, guys. Yep. So yeah, who do they want? They want the Dodgers. They want the New York teams. The big city teams, but big market teams. I want Kansas City Royals, Detroit Tigers. A Diamondback. They don't want them in this. The lowest viewed World Series. Monday Night Football blew them out of the water. So yeah, but that goes for all sports. But that doesn't mean, like I says, the NFL's making the call. It just doesn't work that way. And then whoever they get. Unfortunately, they got a small market in Arizona. But it was look, they did a great job. 2 in Milwaukee. They go take 2 in Milwaukee. Figure it's a layup for the Dodgers to beat them. They've owned them for years. They go to LA. They beat them 2 there, and then they knocked them right off in the 3rd game in Arizona. And then down 3-2, go knock Philly off. Tough place to win Philly, especially in the playoffs. Yeah. And they go knock off Philly. So great job. Just not enough to get past Texas. And again, Texas does this limping in. They had DeGrom, one of the best pitchers in baseball seen in 20 years, IR. They had Eovaldi, who did come back to be pitching great in the playoffs, in the postseason. And Scherzer, just a shell of himself, coming back to get a couple of shutout innings. But good job for Texas. And we don't have to talk about baseball for the next few months. It's winter time. It's NBA and NFL.
Yes, it is NBA and NFL. We got Thursday night football going on tonight. We can talk about this matchup, and this is as winter NFL as you get as far as an expected ground and pound, low-scoring football game. Titans and Steelers, low total here tonight, 36.5 is where it's been most of the week. You have Tannehill still missing here for the Titans. You have this situation QB-wise for Tennessee. Will Levis comes in, kid out of Kentucky, puts mayonnaise in his coffee, has all these issues draft night. There was murmurs he was going to go, up there with Stroud and Richardson and going to go in, top of Bryce Young and the top of the draft, falls back late. Titans grab him. And next thing you know, goes in 4 touchdowns. What can he do in game 2 tonight? And it's a tough one. You get this Steelers pass rush on a short week on the road in Pittsburgh. John and I were just talking before. We saw it with the Bears and Badgett, who goes and has his first game absolutely terrific. The next thing you know, has to go on the road prime time against the Chargers. Great pass rush there, and all he does is throw 2 picks in that one. So tough turnaround. We'll say I'll be impressed if he comes up with a good game tonight. I'm sure Hopkins is glad to be having a competent quarterback again, just because Tannehill is not. We'll see what he gives. The Steelers team been better on the road recently, still getting it done decently at home, 2-2 straight up against the spread. They've had success in this matchup. and some under trends all around across the board. Last 4 meetings go under. 4 of Titans' last 5 go under. Steelers' last 5 go under. But like I said, really, really low total. Might be waiting to look to see if you can get a live price up above that 40.5 marker if you can find one. But yeah, lean the under. Lean to the Steelers in this one. Really tough spot for Levis. But I will say, if he gets a win tonight, that'll be a very, very impressive win for a young quarterback.
It'd be a very impressive win for a young quarterback. It'll probably be the end of the Tannehill era in Houston. In Tennessee. Tennessee, not the same team on the road. And just as Ben said, we saw the Bears quarterback step in for Fields. Home game, yep, look great. Goes on the road in a primetime game, not so much. I expect more of the same today. Pickett left the last game. There was some question. He was a little limited in practice. Looks like he's going to go. Tough kid. That happened earlier in the year. We thought he might be stepping out. Trubisky was coming in, but he made it also. Who they do lose is Fitzpatrick, Micah Fitzpatrick. That's a big loss in the secondary. They will get Cam Hayward back, defensive tackle. He's a stud. That solidifies that defensive line, and that's what's going to be chasing the kid Levis. I would lay 2.5 on this game. I'll throw in the weather, by the way. Weather, I've checked, is a perfect night for football in Pittsburgh, so weather won't be an issue. But 2.5 would be a lay for me. You're at like 2.5 minutes, and it's just a small bet. But I do think, as Ben said, the young kid comes in a little tougher to go to Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah.
On the road, a different coach, Mike Tomlin. He gets those rookie quarterbacks, and I think he'll have a little tougher time than he did at Atlanta. Now you get some film on the kid also. And always remember that
it's big.
Once the coaches have a same thing as baseball. Some might have a guy come up, he's ripping it up. All of a sudden, the pitchers watch a little football. Can't hit the curveball. Doesn't like the slider. Don't like to get pitched in on his hands. Once there's some film of him, and you get something to go off. So would expect a little difference. It's Pittsburgh with nobody for me. Don't have faith on this kid to turn around on the road. Tennessee has not been a good road team. So Pittsburgh or nothing.
Yeah, I'm all for the narrative, though, to it. If Will Levis comes up with a game tonight, would be nice to watch, nice to see. So no side on the game currently. Going to be watching that one a bit as a fan, looking for a live under. And we had some success in the NBA last night. Let's see if we can continue it on to tonight. Short card, just the 4 games, but pretty good matchups. We'll get into it here. First one, Raptors, 76ers. Obviously, the former Raptors coach, Nick Nurse, now here in Philly. They've already met once this season on Saturday. 76ers go ahead and pull off a win, 114-107 at Toronto. And this Philly team, we've seen what they've been doing as far as the trade with James Harden. They finally do that. They get back a lot of role pieces. And this Philly team went very quickly from being a strong starting 5 to one of the deeper teams in the Eastern Conference, which is kind of the opposite of what the other 2 powerhouse teams, Milwaukee and Boston, are doing in the Eastern Conference. They went very front 5 focused, and they lost some of that depth. Complete opposite situation here for Philly. So we'll see how that works out for them. Raptors coming off a back-to-back big win there against the Bucks. And how much of this new 76ers roster are they gelling yet? Are we going to see that tonight? Big number here early on, I would say. And Raptors, obviously, little bit of a letdown spot, but yeah, this revenge factor against your former coach who just beat you on Saturday. So definitely a big number here would be Raptors or nothing.
It is, and I sent this out, Raptors +9 for 1 unit this morning, and now the line is moved, and I probably should have bet 2 units on this game myself. Good spot for Toronto. Toronto's back-to-back, but they cruised. They had Milwaukee beat in the first 8 minutes of the game last night. Yep. They jumped all over them, and pretty much by the second half, they cruised. Siakam, I believe, played 20. What did he play here? 20. No, he played 33 minutes. Excuse me. Siakam led them with 26 scoring, played 33 minutes. Nobody else played more than 29 minutes. So a little bit of it's not a real tough back-to-back. Toronto to Philly, and as Ben said, they'll go visit their coach who just beat them. And when Philly beat them in Toronto, just remember Raptors coming off overtime the night before at Chicago, so they were back-to-back off overtime. So I like the spot better. Now, Philly's had 3 days rest, so obviously the more rested team. Maybe too much rest. That third day, it starts to get a little lackadaisical, and now you get some new pieces coming in. We know Batum won't be available, but supposedly Covington will be available. Martin will be available, and Morris is supposed to be available. So we'll see how they're going to configure to fill in that P.J. Tucker spot. To start for tonight, Kelly Oubre is going to move into the starting lineup, and he's actually been playing nice for them off the bench. Yeah. And that's where you want to keep him. You want to have that guy on the bench. So I'm assuming once they get these other guys up to speed, they'll get one of the 3, Batum, Morris, or Covington in the 4 and bring Oubre back off the bench.
Yeah, Covington going to be in his second stint with Philly, so he might get plugged into that rotation. Just a little bit of experience there with Embiid. Obviously, this Philly and Harris, but this Philly roster has changed a lot since then. This next matchup here, Pistons, Pelicans, 2 teams, opposite stories last night, both on a back-to-back. Detroit up 18. They blow that. They lose 110-101. At one point, that game was 99-99, and down the stretch, Blazers put on 11-2 run, and that's how that game wraps up. Then you have this Pelicans team who go down by 22 last night. They start off shooting 1 for 17 from 3. Then they put together a 12 for 25 from 3 down the stretch, almost 50%, come all the way back and beat OKC without Ingram. He's questionable tonight. Duran's still questionable for the Pistons tonight, and Burke's questionable. So a lot of question marks. One team coming off blowing a big lead, one team coming off coming back from a big deficit. Got to think mentally just in that aspect. Got to be a little bit of an edge there to the Pelicans. Big number on this game. And I'm looking at the under here. A lot of under trends. Last 4 meetings go under. Pistons games averages 216, and 3 of the 4 Pels games going under or nothing for me. In this one, slightest of leans here to the Pelicans if Duran is out. That's a big miss for Valanciunas and Zion down low.
Yeah, Duran is big, and Burks to a lesser degree. Duran's your second leading scorer, and Burks is your third leading scorer. And while Cunningham dropped 30 last night, what did he shoot? 11 for 27. So not exactly efficient. Pelicans have won the last 5 meetings between the 2 teams. If the injuries were all even, you would lean a little bit to Detroit, the team coming off the tough loss, instead of the team coming off that huge win. But again, all depends on the injuries here. I don't expect Ingram to play again. Off injured. This was the problem with the Pelicans team, especially right now. You got to remember, Pelicans right now, 3 of their rotation players, Alvarado, Murphy, Marshall, all injured, all haven't played yet this year. So now when you take a starter out, it's that much bigger. So now you're going to be on a back-to-back, even bigger. It's all about the injuries, guys. And again, that's why you want to be ahead to beat the Bookie member. We'll be on top of the injuries right up till game time.
And then this next matchup, we have Magic at Utah. Magic coming off a pair of losses in LA, both to the Lakers and the Clippers. You have this Jazz team back-to-back. One of our winners last night, get it done, crushing the Grizzlies. And that's what you love if you're going to be looking at a team the next spot. I mean, obviously, it's tough on back-to-backs backing certain teams. We just talked about the Pelicans and the Pistons. Both those teams hard-fought games and then come back on a back-to-back. Utah, the complete opposite. They put Grizzlies away early. This Orlando team, Banchero not looking so hot early on this season. We'll see if he continues to progress. Orlando, they had a couple of easy games early, get a couple of wins. Now you fight and you lose to both LA teams. Still 3-1 against the spread on the season. We'll see how they go here to Utah. But, man, this Jazz team just getting it done a little bit, 3-2 against the spread. But for these East Coast teams going on these long West Coast trips, this is a final stop they usually get in Utah or Denver. And it's a tough final stop here. Utah, one of the bigger home edges. Jazz are nobody in this spot, John.
Yeah, we sent this one out also. I sent this out on the money line. So Jazz opened on the overnight at 2. Had no interest on it, especially with the Jazz playing. So for you guys trying to learn some stuff with the overnights, if you've got, and this was the Jazz Magic situation, Magic not playing, Utah playing, only something bad could happen to the Jazz. An injury, they go into overtime. very rarely does something good happen, and that happened last night. They had such a cruise game last night that there should be no effect to the back-to-back. So Magic have more of an issue, this being their fourth game in 7 days on West Coast and the final game of the road trip. Jazz have owned this series. They've won 8 of 9, covering 7 of the 9. They've won 7 straight at Utah. So I laid minus 108 on this game on the money line. Would rather lay minus 108 than lay the 110. So we got minus 108 on the money line. This is a 2-unit bet for me. Tough spot for Orlando. Last of the road trip again. So far, what have they done? They beat the Rockets, who now is starting to look a little better. But the first game, you got to remember, they got different pieces. They got Van Vliet from Toronto. Brooks from Memphis. They're trying to put a whole cluster of guys together, and they just weren't on the same page. Looking better, and they beat us last night in the Charlotte game. So used to look a little better now, but were horrible the first game. Then they went and beat Portland. Same scenario. A lot of different guys coming in. That was their second game. So they had the luxury of beating 2 teams that were just getting put together. They played solid against the Lakers. They probably should have won that game and then just fell flat the next game against the Clippers, as Ben mentioned. Banchero, 37.5%, 12.5 points a game through his first 4 games. That's not going to get it done. He's supposed to be their guy. What the Jazz did, I liked the Jazz group. Before the Jazz had everybody injured at the end of the year last year, they were primed to take one of the play-in spots or one of the final playoff spots. They fell apart with all the injuries, and then they just let it go. A nice little team. I like what they're doing in Utah. They play well at Utah. They own the Magic in Utah. Money line minus 108. This was a no-brainer. This was a 2-unit bet for us.
Yeah, I mean, obviously back in the Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Utah days, they were a regular season juggernaut getting it done. And since then, a little bit of overreaction, I think, from the books just as far as what is left with them. And they're still a competitive team, especially at home. This last game, a little bit of a rematch of a game that we had a little bit of a tough break on the other night. Spurs at Phoenix. You have this Suns team coming fresh off blow, and they were up by 20. They blow this lead. San Antonio comes all the way back. A little bit of a questionable no call at the end as Kevin Durant turns it over. He had cuts on his face, was likely fouled, obviously didn't get the whistle. You guys know the story. Spurs win the game. You got to imagine that is a bitter, fresh taste in the mouth of the Phoenix Suns coming into this matchup today. This game is just a pure revenge for a team who won the matchup. Suns won the 9 prior meetings, all 3 last year by an average of 23 points, up by 20. Think you're cruising. Still no official word on it. Booker's going to return, correct, John? He's listed questionable.
They're still listing him as questionable. Beal definitely still going to remain out. We'll see what happens with Book.
Yeah, but pretty clear as day. This spot is all Phoenix, John.
Yeah, laid it yesterday as soon as the lines came out. At DraftKings, we laid 7 games sitting at 8.5. Only one way you could get bet right now. As I wrote in the in our previews, I expect Phoenix to put their foot on the gas, not let up as they did the first one. They let a game slip away from them. Look, for our purposes, I'm glad the Suns lost that game. They'll come out extra motivated. Oh, yeah. If they would have covered, wouldn't have done us no good if they give KD those free throws, and maybe they dogged today's game. But coming out, losing it, blowing a 20-point lead. I think it was 13 going into the fourth quarter. I wrote on our preview that Wembanyama is going to be great, but not yet. He's right now pedestrian stats. So if this San Antonio team's marginally better than they were last year, a team that Phoenix is absolutely owned, expect them to do just what they do. San Antonio will allow them to shoot over 50%, and the Phoenix will put a $120 on the board and win by 10. And they were well on their way to that absolute fourth quarter collapse. I don't think they let that happen today. We laid 7 games, 8.5. This is a 3-unit bet.
Yep, and we'll see what goes on with Devin Booker. Hopefully that line sails even higher if he gets ruled in. Waiting on official news with him. Big weekend coming up. Tomorrow's the first games of this NBA play-in tournament. We'll see how serious these guys are taking it. If there is any kind of actual different feel to it, who knows? Or if it's just going to be like any other regular season NBA games. That's going to be different to handicap. We don't know what to expect as far as we talk about the mentality and the intensity which players are bringing, what intensity they're showing up with tomorrow. And then obviously a lot of college football and NFL action coming up later this week. A handful of bets already out in both the NFL and college football. 5-unit bet out in college football as well. We went over that earlier in the week. If you guys want to find all that action, howtobeatthebookie.com or download the How to Beat the Bookie app. John, big Wednesday night to get it back. And we got another night to continue getting back in the green for the week. Pretty big October, bad couple of days. You could say Halloween got us a little spooky, but after that, good start to November.
That, guys, it happens. And there's going to be more bad times ahead. You have not found a crystal ball here. What you have found is the best sports betting information you can get. You're not going to get better sports betting information. You're going to be on the right side at the right number, and that's what we do. If we tell you we laid Phoenix -7, and the next morning it's 8.5, you're just ahead of the game constantly. We took 9 on Toronto. The game's 8 or 8.5, depending on your book. Yesterday, just go down the line. Every game we bet, the line moves our way. That's called an edge. There is nobody that can give you anything more than an edge, just an edge. And I'm the guy that could do it, especially in NBA. We crush the NBA. We'll do it all year. But yeah, we're gonna have some cold streaks, and we're just getting over one. Monday and Tuesday, we did not win a game. It's very frustrating. Not Monday and Tuesday. I'm sorry. Was it what's today? I get lost in the days. Yeah, Monday and Tuesday. We didn't win a game. Yep. We'll win more than our share of games. You got to win 52.4% of your games to overcome the juice. There's no way I will be held under that percentage, beating the number every single game, every single day. One number has gone against us since the start of the season, and it only went against us because of an injury. And, yeah, we're full steam ahead right now, Ben.
Absolutely full steam ahead. If you guys want to be a part of it, sign up on the app or the website. We appreciate you guys tuning in on the podcast. We'll be back, of course, tomorrow by 1 o'clock Eastern. Like, comment, subscribe below. Let's make some money, John.
And I just want to add, guys, don't think we forgot about NFL. We're crushing, crushing NFL. We bet a game for Sunday. That game is a full 1.5-point move on the side. A total has already moved the full point over key numbers. So, yeah, we haven't forgot about NFL. At the last look, we were, could I say, about 75% for the year, Ben? Would I be right?
Yes, you would.
So, yeah, perfect time. NBA, NFL, and, yeah, absolutely. Let's make some money.